How you doing? In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips to prevent drone flyaways. So let's get right into it. So first off, what is a drone flyaway? Well, if you have a smaller drone like a DJI Mavic Mini or a Mavic Air 2, you're more vulnerable for a flyaway, but it can happen with any drone. But if you follow the tips in this video, the chances of it happening are very, very slim. So a flyaway is basically when the drone has a mind of its own and goes flying off and you lose control of the drone. So it just goes in all sorts of directions and either crashes or flies off into the distance and you don't know where it is. There could be many reasons for this, usually loss of signal, or there could be some interference, or the mode that you're flying the drone can cause the drone to do all different things. So everything will make a lot more sense once I go through my tips. So I'm gonna do that now. So number one, the first tip is to update all your firmware, both on your device and then on your drone. And you need to do it with everything. So let's say you got the Mavic Mini. You need to do it with the Mavic Mini, the actual aircraft. Then you need to update the firmware on the battery, on each battery that you're going to use to fly. And then also on the controller. So you got to do all 3 of those things, plus the device, tablet, phone, whatever you're using to fly. All the firmware needs to be updated. And I would suggest that you update all your firmware before you leave the house. So my next tip is to check your sensors, both with your compass and your IMU. There's different settings where it says, good or excellent. You want it to say at least good or excellent. If it's anything worse than good or excellent, then you have a problem. So if you do a compass calibration and everything is looking good, all your firmware is updated, and it's not good or excellent, then you're gonna have to contact the drone manufacturer. You're gonna have to contact DJI, or you're gonna have to go to a local company that fixes drones and have a drone tech fix this problem for you. My next tip is to set the return to home altitude, which is really easy. In the DJI Fly app, you can just go over here, click on this, and then just adjust it. Or you can go over here in these 3 dots up here, and then you go here, click this, and then you just go right here and you adjust it over here to the height that you want. Just make sure that the return to home height is higher than the highest obstacle, building, tree, etc., where you're flying, so that when the drone flies back, it's not gonna hit something, okay? You want it to fly above those and then come home and land. Now in the DJI Go 4 app, same thing, it's very easy. You just go over here and then you go over here, click on this, and then just adjust the height that you want for the drone to return to home. All right, my next tip to avoid flyaways with your drone is to make sure that the wind speed is not faster than the speed that the drone can fly. This happened to me once, and I'm gonna tell you this story so that you understand it better and you don't make the same mistake. I wanted to get a quick shot with the Mavic Mini. The sun was going down. I didn't have much time, and I didn't have time to charge my batteries, which was another mistake. Obviously, you need to charge your batteries, and my battery was about probably like 60% or so. So I took off, and the wind was about 29 miles per hour, 29, 30 miles per hour at about 200 feet up. Okay, so my first mistake, I could have gone to UAV Forecast, used this app on my phone, and just looked and seen that the wind profile at 200 feet was 30 miles an hour, 29, 30 miles an hour. About the same speed that the Mavic Mini can fly in sport mode, or the fastest that it can actually fly. So this was my first mistake. So I flew with the wind and I went all the way, got the shot I wanted, and had about 45% or so battery life. Not too bad. I'm about half a mile away. I can barely see the drone, okay, which is another mistake. Should keep it in line of sight. I should have walked over, but again, I'm rushing, and this is a mistake. When you start rushing, you start making mistakes, and I use this as a teaching example of what not to do. I got the shot. Now I need to turn it back, but now I'm coming back into the wind. Because the Mavic Mini is so light and it only flies 29 miles per hour and the wind's going 29 miles per hour, basically when I was trying to fly at full speed, it was just staying in place. It wasn't moving. And now I'm freaking out. I'm like, well, it's a half a mile away. It's not moving. It's not moving. And the battery's going lower and lower because it's going into the wind. I couldn't lower it because there were some trees there. If I lowered it, it would have hit those trees. So I had to keep it at that height in order to not hit those trees. So I couldn't go to lower it down where the wind wasn't quite as fast. So I also had that problem. So what I did was I was near a road and I saw the edge. It was someone's yard and it was the actual road. And what I did was I just lowered the drone down because it got so low. It was at like 25% and around 20%, and there was nothing that was going to happen. I couldn't lower the drone. The sun was going down. It was going to be dark soon. So what I did was I just lowered the drone down and I landed in this little piece of grass next to the road, maybe a couple feet over. So I knew exactly where I landed the drone. And then I looked at my map and went over there and retrieved my drone. Thankfully, there was no problem. However, that could have been disastrous had the wind been a little faster, and all sorts of things could have happened. So long story short, know your drone, know the maximum speed that it can fly, and know the wind speed for that day. So if your drone flies 29 miles per hour max, make sure the wind speed is much lower, at least I'd say 25 miles per hour max, and know that going back into the wind, it's gonna eat up a lot more battery. So make sure you have enough battery to come back. And really that's my next tip, is to make sure that you have more, at least 50% or more battery when returning home. Because a lot of times, especially if you're flying really far, could be even with a bigger drone. Let's say you're taking the Mavic Air 2 and you're flying this out and you're like 2 miles away. If you're 2 miles away, 1.5 miles, and I know I said before, keep it in the line of sight, but sometimes it's still within the line of sight. It's just really hard to see it 2 miles away. You're probably not gonna be able to see it. But let's say you're in that scenario where you're flying it really far. You're 2 miles away, you need to fly it back. Well, to fly it back, if there's a lot of wind, that's gonna eat up your battery, and then before you know it, especially if you're flying above water, you may start to worry, oh no, where do I go? How do I land this thing? The wind could also pick up, it could change directions. Let's say you are flying into the wind going out, and then the wind changes, and now you have to fly into the wind coming back. So just make sure that it's at least 50%, especially if you're flying, I would say more than 1,000 feet away, 1,000 feet or more. Make sure you have at least 50% battery life so you can get home. With the Mavic Mini, you have to be even more cognizant of this because of the wind. Use the app, like I said before, UAV Forecast. They'll tell you the wind profile at different heights, at different altitudes, and this will help you a lot to avoid getting in the situation and having to land your drone in like an emergency spot. You don't want to be in that situation. You want the drone to come back. So follow this tip, please. All right, so I hope you found those tips helpful. One thing I want to emphasize is that whether you fly with the Mavic Mini, the Mavic Air 2, or whatever drone you fly with, the knowledge is more important than the actual drone, and the skills that you have is more important, whether you want to fly just with more confidence or you want to become a professional drone pilot, which is why I created a course called DJI Drone Pro that will teach you everything you need, from which gear to choose, from picking the right drone to all the accessories that you need, to all my secrets and little tips like I showed you in today's video, but obviously much more in depth with nearly 40 videos and growing and updating each month. I also show you how to find the right music, how to color grade your footage, and various other things that will help you fly with confidence and turn your drone into a career if you choose to do so. Now, if you want to get a taste of this course, I created a free 40-minute training that reveals my top 7 secrets for flying DJI drones. Now, you can access that by clicking the link below, or you can do it by clicking the link over here, whether you want to watch that free training or join the course. In the course, I also include 5 more tips for preventing flyaways. So there's much more information in the actual course. I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Brett Garamella, the Drone Pilot Pro, and remember, fly like a pro.